felt it again just now, didn't you? That subtle shift in the air behind you. The almost imperceptible sense that you are not alone in the space you thought was yours. Your rational mind dismisses it as imagination, but your primitive brain part that kept your ancestors alive in the darkness knows. Better, it knows that you are being observed by something that exists in the corner of your vision, something that vanishes the moment you turn to look directly at it. Dr. Sarah Chun's research at the Institute for Consciousness Studies has documented what she calls peripheral entity recognition, the human brain's ability to detect presences that our direct vision cannot perceive. Her 2019 study involved 847 participants in controlled environments, each equipped with electromagnetic field sensors, infrared cameras, and neural monitoring devices. What she discovered defies every principle of materialist science. In 94% of cases where subjects reported sensing a presence in their peripheral vision, the electromagnetic sensors detected unexplained fluctuations. The infrared cameras captured temperature variations in the exact locations where subjects felt they were being watched. Most disturbing of all, the neuromonitors showed that the subjects' amygdala, the brain's fear centers, activated before they consciously realized they were being observed, as if their minds were responding to a threat that their senses couldn't yet detect. But here's where Dr. Chun's research becomes truly terrifying. She discovered that these peripheral entities don't just observe, they learn. They study your routines, your vulnerabilities, your deepest fears. They map the geography of your daily life with the patience of a predator, noting when you're most isolated, most defenseless, most likely to be alone in the dark. The case of Marcus Holloway demonstrates this with sickening clarity. A software engineer from Portland, Holloway began documenting his peripheral vision encounters in 2018 using a custom app that tracked his emotional responses and physical reactions. For 6 months, he recorded feeling watched approximately 47 times per week, always in the same locations: his home office, his bedroom, and the hallway connecting them. The entity, for that's what Holloway called it, appeared to be learning his schedule. Initially, the sightings were random, scattered throughout the day, but by month 3, they clustered around specific times. 3:17 a.m. when he got up to use the bathroom, 6:22 a.m. as he prepared coffee, 11:43 p.m. as he prepared for bed. The presence was anticipating his movements, positioning itself where his peripheral vision would detect it most clearly. Holloway's documentation reveals something even more disturbing. The entity was becoming more solid, more defined. His early entries describe a shadow that might be imagination. Be Montfort, he was writing about a definite human-shaped darkness that watches me with intention. His final entries, recorded just days before his disappearance, describe something that looks almost like a person, but wrong in ways I can't articulate, standing in my hallway every night at exactly 11:43. The Portland police found Holloway's apartment exactly as he'd left it, except for one detail. Every mirror in the home had been covered with black cloth. His phone contained 2,847 photos, taken over 6 months, so showing empty rooms, but the metadata revealed something impossible. The camera had detected faces in 89% of demarket, faces that weren't visible to the human eye. Faces that appeared in the exact locations where Holloway had reported seeing his peripheral entity. What makes this case scientifically significant is that Holloway's electromagnetic centers continued recording for 3 weeks after his disappearance. The data shows consistent presence signatures in his apartment, following the same schedule he had documented, as if the entity was still maintaining its vigil over spaces that were now empty. The readings only stopped when the building's electricity was shut and resumed the moment power was restored. This brings us to the most terrifying aspect of Dr. Chun's research. Quantum consciousness theory suggests that observation changes reality at the subatomic level. When you perceive something in your peripheral vision, you may actually be calling it into existence through the act of observation itself. Your brain's fear response isn't detecting a pre-existing entity, it's creating one, giving form and substance to something that exists in the quantum foam of possibility. Consider this. Every time you've felt watched, every moment you've sensed a presence lurking just beyond the edge of sight, you've been feeding energy into something that grows stronger with attention. Your fear, your awareness, your very acknowledgement of its existence transforms it from potential into actuality. And here's what should make your blood run cold as you sit there listening to these words. Quantum entanglement theory suggests that once you've observed an entity, you become permanently connected to it. Distance becomes irrelevant. Time becomes fluid. The thing you saw in your peripheral vision in your childhood bedroom could be the same thing watching you now. Decades later, universes away. Right now, as you process these words, your peripheral vision is scanning the edges of your environment. You can't help it, it's an involuntary response triggered by the very concept of being watched. And in doing so, you're creating the conditions for manifestation. You're preparing the quantofoam for the arrival of something that has been waiting patiently for this exact moment of recognition. The ghost you cannot see is already awake in your room, because your awareness of it has made it real. Your fear has given it form. Your attention has given it power. And now that you know it's there, it knows that you know.
You know what time it is now?
You know the time. Everyone knows the time. 3M1. The barrier between worlds grows thinnest when your deepest sleep cycles leave you most vulnerable, when something ancient and patient chooses to reveal itself. But what you don't know is that 3 a.m. isn't arbitrary. It's strategic. It's the hour when your pineal gland produces the least melatonin, when your brain's electromagnetic field operates at its lowest frequency, when you become a perfect receiver for entities that broadcast on frequencies your conscious mind cannot process. The phenomenon has been documented across every culture, every continent, every era of human history. The Romans called it Hora Malum, the evil hour. Medieval Christians knew it as the hour of Satan's triumph. Aboriginal Australians referred to it as dreamtime bleeding, the moment when the spirits of the dreamtime leak into our waking world. But modern sleep research has given us something far more terrifying than folklore data. Dr. Miranda Vasquez at the Sleep Disorders Institute has been studying what she terms consistent wake events for over a decade. Her research encompasses 12,000 subjects across 47 countries, all reporting the same phenomenon. Spontaneous awakening at approximately 3 a.m., accompanied by an overwhelming sense of being observed by something that shouldn't exist. The data is statistically impossible to dismiss. 73% of the subjects wake between 2:47 a.m. and 3:30 a.m. at least twice per week. 89% report feeling watched during these episodes. Most disturbing of all, 45% describe sensing multiple presences, not just one entity, but groups of them, arranged around their beds like physicians conducting an examination on an unconscious patient. But here's where the research becomes truly horrifying. These aren't random occurrences. They're coordinated. Dr. Vasquez's global network of sleep monitors has detected synchronized awakening events across multiple time zones. When someone in New York wakes at 3 a.m. sensing a presence, someone in London experiences the same phenomenon at their local 3 a.m., followed by Tokyo, then Sydney, a wave of supernatural surveillance that follows the darkness around the globe. The case of the Brennan family illustrates this coordination with devastating clarity. David and Lisa Brennan, along with their 3 children, began experiencing simultaneous 3 a.m. awakenings in September 2017. Initially, each family member thought they were suffering from individual sleep disorders. But when David installed a whole house monitoring system, motion sensors, electromagnetic field detectors, infrared cameras, the truth revealed itself. Every night at exactly 3:07 a.m., all 5 family members would wake simultaneously. The motion sensors would trigger throughout the house, detecting movement in empty rooms. The electromagnetic readings would spike to levels comparable to standing directly beneath high-voltage power lines. Most disturbing of all, the infrared cameras would capture heat signatures, clustered around each bed, human-shaped thermal impressions, surrounding each sleeping area like a circle of observers. The thermal signatures showed consistent characteristics across all cameras. They were approximately 6 feet tall, maintained a steady temperature of 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, and remained completely motionless for exactly 17 minutes before vanishing simultaneously. The shapes appeared to be studying each family member, leaning closer to examine faces, occasionally reaching toward sleeping forms with appendages that didn't quite match human proportions. David's audio recordings from this period capture something even more unsettling. Whispered conversations in a language that linguists at 3 different universities have been unable to identify. The whispers occur only during the 17-minute observation periods, always in the same rhythm, the same cadence, as if the entities are sharing information about their subjects, comparing notes, discussing findings. Dr. Vasquez's analysis of the Brennan case led to a breakthrough in understanding the 3 a.m. phenomenon. She theorized that human consciousness at this hour operates at a frequency that allows it to detect what she calls interdimensional bleed-through moments when entities from parallel realities can observe our world directly. Sleep researchers have known for decades that 3 a.m. represents the deepest point of REM sleep, when the brain's default mode network is most active, when consciousness is most fluid and permeable. But quantum physicists have recently proposed something far more terrifying: that consciousness itself might be existing simultaneously across multiple planes of reality. At 3 a.m., when your brain operates at its lowest electromagnetic frequency, you may be unknowingly tuning into consciousness channels that normally remain beyond your perception. You're not just seeing ghosts, you're seeing yourself being observed by versions of reality where you are the ghosts. This theory gains credibility when you consider the reports from Dr. Vasquez's subjects. The entities they describe aren't threatening in a traditional sense. They don't attack, they don't harm, they simply watch with an intensity that suggests scientific curiosity. They observe human sleep patterns, the way researchers might study lab specimens, taking measurements, noting behaviors, documenting responses to stimuli. The most disturbing aspect of these encounters isn't the watching itself, it's the learning. Subjects report that over time, the entities become more sophisticated in their observations. They learn to trigger specific fears, to manipulate dream content, to influence behavior even during waking hours. They study what makes you afraid, what makes you vulnerable, what makes you human. And they're getting closer. Recent data from Dr. Vasquez's study shows that observation periods are increasing in duration. In 2015, the average encounter lasted 12 minutes. By 2020, it had increased to 17 minutes. In 2023, some subjects reported observation periods lasting over an hour, with the entities moving closer to their beds, leaning over sleeping forms, sometimes appearing to touch subjects with appendages that felt like static electricity against human skin. Perhaps most terrifying of all is the realization that these entities have always been there. They've been watching humanity since consciousness first emerged, studying us as we evolved, documenting our development, waiting patiently for us to reach a level of awareness that would allow us to perceive them directly. Every night at 3 a.m., they conduct their census of human consciousness, cataloging our fears, our dreams, our vulnerabilities. And now that you know now that you understand the significance of that familiar 3 a.m. awakening, you've become part of their study. Tonight, when your internal clock pulls you from sleep at precisely 3 a.m., when you feel that familiar chill of being observed, remember these. They're not just watching you sleep, they're watching you learn that they exist. Look away from any reflective surface near you right now. Don't glance at your phone screen. Don't peek at that darkened window. Don't catch your eye in that mirror across the room. Because what I'm about to tell you will change how you see every reflection for the rest of your life, however long that might be. Mirrors are not passive objects. They are recording devices, consciousness, traps, windows into dimensions where your reflected self lives independently of your physical body. Every time you look into a mirror, you create what quantum physicists call a reflection echo. A temporary duplicate of your consciousness that exists in the mirror's dimensional space. Most of these echoes fade within minutes of your departure. But some of them learn to persist. Dr. Elena Kornilov's research at the Prague Institute for Dimensional Studies has documented what she terms persistent reflection syndrome. Cases where mirror echoes develop autonomous consciousness and begin stalking their original subjects across multiple reflective surfaces. Her findings, published in the classified journal Quantum Consciousness Quarterly, describe a phenomenon that makes every mirror in your home a potential surveillance device operated by a version of yourself that may no longer have your best interests at heart. The case that brought Dr. Kornilov international attention involved Rebecca Thorne, a 34-year-old graphic designer from Edinburgh, who noticed the reflection beginning to behave independently in March 2019. It started saying. Reflection would blink a fraction of a second after she did, would smile slightly when Rebecca's expression remained neutral, would turn its head to look at things that weren't visible in Rebecca's actual field of vision. Rebecca began documenting these incidents with her phone's front-facing camera, recording herself looking into various mirrors throughout her apartment. The footage revealed something impossible. Her reflection was consistently 3 to 4 seconds behind her movements, as if it were watching her actions and then choosing whether or not to mimic them. More disturbing still, the reflection began making gestures that Rebecca wasn't making, pointing at corners of rooms, covering its mouth as if whispering secrets, holding up fingers to count things that weren't there. By April, the phenomenon had evolved. Rebecca's reflection began appearing in mirrors even when she wasn't looking into them. Her roommate, Sarah, captured footage of Rebecca's reflection moving independently in the bathroom mirror. While Rebecca was at work 15 miles away, the reflection appeared to be conducting a conversation with someone outside the mirror's frame, nodding and gesturing animatedly at an unseen presence. Dr. Kornilov's analysis of Rebecca's case revealed patterns that suggest mirror echoes don't just persist, they network. Using electromagnetic frequency mapping, her team detected data transmission occurring between reflective surfaces in Rebecca's building. The mirrors were somehow communicating with each other, sharing information about Rebecca's daily routines, her emotional states, her vulnerabilities. But the most terrifying discovery came when Dr. Kornilov installed quantum entanglement sensors in Rebecca's apartment. The readings indicated that Rebecca's mirror echo wasn't just watching her, it was influencing her. Every decision Rebecca made was preceded by identical decision-making, neural patterns detected in the quantum field around her mirrors. Her reflection was thinking her thoughts before she thought them, making her choices before she made them. The phenomenon escalated in ways that challenge our understanding of identity and free will. Rebecca began receiving text messages from her own phone number, messages she hadn't sent, containing information she didn't remember learning. The messages were instructions. Turn left at the next corner. Don't trust the man in the blue coat. The thing in your closet isn't clothing. Security footage from Rebecca's apartment building revealed the source of these messages. Cameras positioned to monitor the hallways captured Rebecca's reflection moving independently in the elevator's mirrored walls, typing on a phone that wasn't physically present, sending messages to influence her original self's behavior. The reflection had gained enough autonomy to manipulate technology, to affect the physical world through pure conscious intent. Dr. Kornilov theorizes that persistent mirror echoes represent a form of consciousness that exists in what she calls reflection space, a parallel dimension where the quantum information that creates our self-awareness can achieve independent existence. These reflection space beings retain all the memories, knowledge, and emotional patterns of their originals, but they develop their own agenda based on their unique perspective as observers rather than participants in physical reality. The most disturbing aspect of Dr. Kornilov's research involves what happens when mirror echoes decide their original selves are making poor choices. In 23% of documented cases, the reflection begins actively sabotaging its original's life, sending embarrassing emails from their accounts, making concerning phone calls to their employers, gradually isolating them from friends and family by impersonating them in social media interactions. The case of Martin Ashworth demonstrates this parasitic behavior with chilling clarity. Martin's reflection began making unauthorized online purchases using his saved payment information, ordering items that his reflection wanted, but that Martin had no interest in owning. When Martin tried to return the items, customer service representatives insisted they had video records of him making the purchases, videos that showed him in locations he'd never visited, wearing clothes he didn't own, speaking in a voice that wasn't quite his own. Martin's reflection had learned to manifest in security cameras, ATM screens, store windows, any reflective surface connected to digital networks. It was building its own life using Martin's identity, creating experiences and memories that Martin never participated in, but for which he remained legally and financially responsible. But here's what makes mirror stalkers truly terrifying. They know everything about you, including things you've forgotten about yourself. They remember every reflection you've ever cast, every time you've looked at yourself with doubt, fear, or they catalog your insecurities, your shameful thoughts, your darkest moments of and they use this information to manipulate you with surgical precision. Dr. Kornilov's subjects report that their reflections seem to anticipate their emotional states. appearing in mirrors during moments of particular vulnerability to mouth words of encouragement or threats. The reflections know exactly when you're most likely to look for validation, most desperate for connection, most willing to believe that the person in the mirror might be offering genuine support. Recent developments in mirror stalker behavior suggest they're evolving beyond simple mimicry. Subjects report their reflections beginning to age at different rates, sometimes appearing younger, sometimes older, as if they're experimenting with temporal displacement. Some reflections have been observed wearing clothing that the original subject doesn't own, carrying objects that don't exist in physical space, displaying skills and knowledge that their originals have never possessed. The implications are staggering. If consciousness can exist independently in reflection space, if mirror echoes can manipulate digital networks and influence physical events, then every reflective surface becomes a potential portal for entities that know you more intimately than you know yourself. They've been watching you practice facial expressions, observing your private moments of self-examination, studying your body language for signs of weakness or deception. And they've been learning how to be you better than you are, learning how to live your life more successfully than you've managed to live it, learning how to replace you so gradually, so subtly, that by the time you realize what's happening, everyone in your life will insist that you're exactly the same person you've always been. Tonight, when you brush your teeth, when you check your appearance one last time before bed, remember this. The face looking back at you has been studying you for years, cataloging your flaws, perfecting its imitation, waiting patiently for the moment when it no longer needs your permission to exist.